gobble, motherfucker.
They're eating her. And then they're going to eat me. Oh my God!
Estrogen levels peaking. It's like she's in heat.
When are you gonna grow up, man? Chicks love cars. If you want to get into their pants, you better have a nice, hot Ferrari.
She's my hot Ferrari. Besides, I love my Mustang, which is a plug-in hybrid. It gets 100 mpg.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! I love my eyes!
Welcome to episode 12 of Schlock Talk, cleaning the toilet of cinema with the toothbrush we're still using after each meal since 2013. I'm Gabe.
I'm Craig.
I'm Joel.
I'm Alan.
I'm embarrassed to be here.
No, you're not.
He's Paul.
You're our ride home.
Not the way he's drinking, he's not. Anyway, so tonight's movie is Samurai Cop from 1989, directed by Amir Shervan. And I actually paid for the DVD for this movie.
How did you feel when you saw that? When you either looked at the poster on the internet or you just walked around in the flea market or wherever it is you shop and you see that cover on the shelf?
I know.
Like, we'll put this up on the site. Just take a look at the poster.
Well, at the Dollar Tree, they just opened the box.
Yeah.
Well, you know, wherever he gets these movies from, it smells like ass and used cum.
Seriously?
Hey,
After he
hey,
bought the
Are you
movie.
sure
this wasn't out of my closet collection.
Yeah.
Are you sure that, like, I mean, are we trying to relate this movie to, like, essentially, like, a used condom that's been thrown out in the parking lot, a dried old cover with inside it has the crispy
We know what's inside.
husk of,
We know what's inside.
Yeah. So,
Crispy husk. Please continue.
Makes a good mustard packet.
I think Paul jerked off the DVD
No.
cover. So other than that, we're
first off, the cover, I mean, you look at the cover and that shit looks insane. You're like, Samurai Cop? Why isn't this in theaters? You pick that shit off the shelf. Because let me tell you, look at this cover. Look at the cover art. All right, when I look at the cover art, I'm thinking, okay, this guy's like he's been a cop for a long ass time. He has severe post-traumatic stress disorder, and on top of that, we'll say that his dad was like a naval veteran, and he freaking went like he had PTSD issues and everything, and has this old like samurai sword with Jack from World War II in his house. And his dad finally kills himself, and then it's the breaking point for this cop. Yeah, it's the breaking point for this cop. And so he just goes on a rampage with a samurai sword in uniform, just cutting off the heads of everyone. Cats, dogs, ice cream men. That's what I think when I look at this cover.
But what?
And I was wrong.
So you were so disappointed.
Yeah. So, on its face, Samurai Cop appears to be a fairly typical late 80s actiony schlock crap. However, having the asset of not one but 2 full semesters of community college level film studies classes under my belt, I was able to discern the hidden subtext in this film.
I didn't
Samurai
realize.
Cop.
We're working with a professional. Guys.
Yes.
Mr. Ebert, pleasure to meet you.
Samurai Cop is truly about a young man well into his 30s, his loss of virginity, and his sexual self-awakening. We all knew a kid in high school.
I never got that.
Are we talking about the same movie?
Every
Yes.
character in the film. You need to narrow it down.
We all know it.
I thought it was just a movie about a witty black guy. But other than that,
With a burned black ass. We all knew a kid in high school who did not so well with the ladies. He would claim he had a girlfriend back in Utah or maybe Canada, where his family visited every year for 2 weeks at his grandparents' cabin. And he would pull a picture out of his wallet and point to a girl in the photo, which was by now so desiccated and blurred that you couldn't be sure if your buddy was beating off to a picture of his girl or an old douche ad from one of his mom's women's magazines. Redbook would be my best guess, but Family Circle would also be acceptable.
Gabe, does this bring back unpleasant memories?
Well, he's not talking about me, or it would have been Family Circus.
Samurai Cop Joe Morgan claims to be an expert.
Would be put next to circus in your fantasies. Come on.
claims to be an expert in Japanese culture and fluent in the language, yet nothing he does on screen would indicate that this is the case. In addition to this, Joe claims to be the ladies' man, but his on-screen escapades belie the fact that this guy barely knows what he's doing when it comes to the babes. We first witness him banging Officer Peggy while both of them have their underwear still on, and he clumsily wipes the back of his hands on her face and neck, and clearly has not a single clue as to what he is doing.
Wait, you're not supposed to do that?
Later in the movie, the hospital nurse casually grabs his dick and tells him she is not interested because there's nothing there. As Joe's schlong has apparently retreated back into his body cavity like the head of a scared turtle.
You're
There's
missing-
shrinkage.
Are we going through this chronologically?
No. I'm just making my point for my
Okay.
movie. Don't worry. We'll even when Joe is more successful, as ultimately happens with Jennifer, he does so by taking the nice guy approach, bringing her back to his place, baking her a cake, and making dinner before they both retire to the bedroom, where he has apparently made great strides in satisfying the ladies, no doubt with the aid of several how-to manuals stashed under the bed. No, Joe Morgan is no great Lothario and no super samurai. He's just a cruddy cop from San Diego who came to L.A. with a reinvented persona, a fucking amazing wig bought from Fabio's House of Hairdos, and no doubt a fairly large collection of anime body pillows back at his squalid apartment.
Okay, you brought up Fabio, so I got to touch on this quickly. Have you guys ever seen that thing on YouTube where Fabio was testing out a brand new roller coaster at Six Flags?
Yeah,
and he gets hit in the face with a seagull.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Did he bite the seagull and like?
No, he's got like a broken nose at the end of the ride.
Oh yeah. It like murdered his face.
Wow.
So Robert Zadar is in Samurai Cop, and this is no doubt the first of many films featuring the man with the chin, which will be featured on our podcast.
The man with the lower half of the frickin' face. Seriously, okay, so imagine you told a toddler, hey, Photoshop this guy's forehead and nose with the jawline of a gorilla.
No, his mom fucked a 57 Chevy.
No. Maria Shriver had sex with Pac-Man.
Yeah. Seriously, the man like has like a sudden change in width in his freaking facial profile once it hits his ear.
Yeah, it looks like it's a part of a cowl.
Yeah, like he's wearing like some kind of padded ninja mask, but that's really his face.
Yes.
He's just had the worst oral surgery imaginable.
Yeah. And it's permanently swollen.
He's trying to lose weight, so they just like shave some fat off his head or something like
Well, you know the guy's pretty giddy because I'm pretty sure Marlon Brando tried to imitate him in The Godfather by stuffing the cotton balls in his mouth to get that cheap look.
And so Robert Zadar, he plays Yamashita, and he's meeting with Akamura.
That's the whitest name I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Yamashita.
Played by the whitest guy ever.
Yeah. He wants to make friends with all the other gangs in L.A., and Yamashita says that Al Capone once said that there was more than enough to go around because if there's one thing Al Capone was known for, it was sharing well with others.
He was like the Jesus Christ of the underworld, right?
Yes.
Come, I've come here to show you a better way.
I've always heard that story about where he like had one machine gun and 5 bullets, but yet he was able to turn them into 100 machine guns. And endless bullets.
So you're saying that he did a loaves and fishes
Yes.
with the underground crime syndicate.
Thank you, Paul. That was terrible.
It's like, he's like, come, give me 2 guns and 7 prostitutes, and I will multiply them.
I'm pretty sure he did turn water into wine, though, and that's how he made most of his living.
So the boss is Fujiyama, and he doesn't want to play nice, and he and the rest of the gang go to Chinatown and kill the leader of the Triad gang there, Mr. Lee.
Now, Fujiyama, is he Cobra sunglasses and mullet guy, or is he bald
mullet
guy from Ninja Turtles?
Bald guy from Ninja Turtles is Okamura, and Fujiyama is mullet Eskimo, yeah.
Inuit.
Oh, sorry.
Innuendo?
So the Chinese use their kung fu, but the Fujiyama gang have their guns with them and easily defeat them. And after they win, it sounds like Pee Wee Herman says, "You did it!" So at the police station, we meet Detective Frank Washington and Joe Marshall, the samurai cop. And we also learned that Joe was brought in from San Diego to clean up the Katana Gang. Katana. Sorry.
Can you even try to say it right?
Yeah, Craig is the one person in our group here that also is a fake Japanese speaker, like Joe Morgan in the movie. Just say,
"Oh, the Japanese chopstick, chopstick sushi." Okay.
So Joe and Frank decide to go follow a blue van.
I'm sorry, but Joe seriously looks like Steve Carell with Fabio's wig.
Yeah, he does.
Seriously.
He really does.
They decide to follow a blue van, and they have a tip that's going to be involved in a drug deal. And the van is clearly owned by B.A.'s mentally challenged brother, D.A. Dumbass Baracus, from the A-Team. And they call Officer Peggy to follow him in the helicopter. And she can apparently see the van from several miles away.
What do you mean you're in L.A.? I'm in Florida. What the fuck? No one tells me anything.
And so the van head towards the marina, and they tell Peggy to keep an eye out for the boat in a marina for some reason.
There's only about 500 boats in the area.
The white one.
And she tells Joe, "Okay, Joe, keep it up." And it's clear that during the conversation that the helicopter is not flying and it's not even running.
They pan out and they're at a convenience store and someone's putting quarters into the machine.
Yeah.
Are you guys done yet? My daughter wants a turd.
You've been in that thing for an hour.
And the bad guys from the van meet up with a boat, which is somehow being driven by Saturday Night Live and Portlandia cast member Fred Armisen. He looks just like him. And he's also somehow 10 years older than he is now. The guys on the boat exchange the cocaine for the cash, and Joe and Frank arrive just in time to see the van driving away. Anything?
I love how inconspicuous the van is with a major cloud drawn on the side and the lightning bolts coming out. And there's a spoiler on the top of the back of the van for what aerodynamic purpose I can't fucking fathom.
Okay.
But, yeah.
This is like, seriously, like, don't let your kids go outside when this car is driving through your neighborhood.
Exactly.
Whenever I visit Gabe, the highlight is right before you turn on his street, there's these people that own a PT Cruiser with a unicorn painted on the side.
Yes, it's true.
Wow.
Clearly, they designed the van in this movie as well.
When you do that, it's just like you're fishing to kick someone's ass.
So they decide to stop the van from getting away by blocking them and letting them T-bone their car because he's samurai cop, not Volvo Labs crash test scientist cop.
Now, you said T-bone, not T-bow, right?
And it should also be pointed out that at this point in the movie, it goes full-on Keystone Cops, and they're speeding up the film and driving through piles of boxes. It's extra retarded.
Seriously, it's an episode of Benny Hill. You just need the music in the background.
And that old bald man running.
And at some point during this chase scene, Jesse Ventura and Bobby Brown poke their heads out of the back of the van and start shooting at him. While all this is happening, Joe keeps telling Frank, "Shoot, shoot!"
Shut up.
And Frank wants to call for backup, but Joe tells him that they don't need it because apparently being shot at the back of a cocaine van does not require any assistance.
You think some kind of like safety harness or something?
They chase the van down a dirt road, and Frank shoots the driver, and the van crashes into a rock, which causes it to explode Grand Theft Auto 3 style. The driver jumps out engulfed in flames, and they put him out. And from the helicopter, Peggy tells them they did a good job, and this calls for a celebration. And Joe tells her, "You got it. I'll see you back at your place."
Way to break your collateral damage record.
And then he points at her while she's in a helicopter 1,000 feet away, and she waves back.
Yeah.
Hey, they made eye contact.
Yeah. In the next scene, we really get to meet Peggy and Joe, and the outer edges of Peggy's butthole.
Wow.
No, there's like a close-up of her in like a G-string, and you could... Anyway.
Gabe, you
man.
need a timestamp.
Gabe.
I had my
Wait,
Next
grandma.
frame. Next
I'm-
frame.
Yeah,
Next
exactly.
frame.
I'm looking at
next
Gabe's
frame.
notes.
Asshole.
That frame right there.
I'm looking at his notes right now. He's made some very interesting illustrations.
Yes. Asterisks.
And some funny stains.
That's on the sheet back there.
It's almost as bad as Joel's sheets hanging on the side here.
And so they have, like I said in the intro, they have mad passionate sex with their underwear on, and he rubs her neck with like the backs of his hands.
Some
It's
creepy
really
stuff.
uncomfortable. He does not look like he knows what he's doing at all.
Wait, have any of the sex scenes in any of the movies we've watched thus far?
Entrails of a beautiful woman had some very realistic sex involved with it.
Those guys knew what they
Oh
were
yeah,
doing.
that penis with the razor sharp teeth.
And the inhaling into the man-woman's vagina.
Yeah.
Does that not happen?
That's pretty much how I imagined that would look like. So back at Fujiyama's mansion, we find out that Joe is an expert in Japanese culture and was taught martial arts by Japanese masters. He speaks fluent Japanese and was brought by the LA police from San Diego. And this will be mentioned over and over and over again, that he's here from San Diego.
Does he
I think
ever
you missed
speak
like 4 overs.
And over.
Did he ever actually speak a word of Japanese in this whole movie?
No,
he never
not a
did.
single damn thing.
Not a single damn word. Doesn't do a single goddamn thing of kung fu.
Yeah, nothing that looks like anything Japanese whatsoever.
Hence the deception from the frickin' cover box art.
Yeah, yep. And so Yamashita says that the Katana Gang, Craig,
Yeah, you got to
will need to get to know Joe and see who this samurai cop really is. And Fujiyama tells the gang he wants the van driver's head brought to him and put on his piano so the driver can't talk and rat out the rest of the gang. That's
that works.
He'll be singing a new tone now.
See?
And back at the police station, we see Joe talking shit about banging some other girl, and does so right in front of Peggy, who not 2 scenes ago he was dry humping and fondling her face clumsily.
He should make up some self-esteem after that one.
She was probably relieved.
Oh wow, it's nice. He actually found someone. He's not okay.
Honey, when you're done, you're not supposed to stain the inside of your underwear.
She,
That's not how it works.
she probably knew he was lying. She's just kind of like rolling her eyes, like, well, he is insecure. I don't want to humiliate him in front of his peers.
And so the captain then calls Frank and Joe into his office, and he screams at them for several minutes.
No, wait, a police captain who screams at his subordinates?
That is unbelievable.
Blows my mind.
So at the hospital, we meet Steve, who's working on a pretty fabulous permalit.
Yeah, he is.
But it's not yet magnificent enough to warrant much more than one line in the film, and he's guarding the badly burned van driver, which is very hard to say, by the way.
Say that 5 times fast.
I will not.
Badly
Badly
burned
burned
van driver.
van
Meanwhile, it's apparent that someone has spilled their strawberry sundae all over this poor guy's face. He's like bleeding through his bandages. It's pretty awesome.
Mind you, that the
wanna
nurse
change
who is
those.
dressing his hideously mangled face looks a lot like a chubby Lindsay Lohan.
Before or after the crack addiction?
Like, just during.
Do you know she has her own show now on the Oprah Winfrey Network?
Her own show?
Yeah, like a reality show.
Oh, wow.
Well, she is train wrecky enough to make that happen.
That's funny. So, like, Oprah, like, adopted her and, like, gave her a show.
Actually, no, Brad Pitt and Angela Jolie, they adopted her.
Yeah.
But,
They threw her back afterwards, didn't they?
They make her walk around in blackface.
oh, wow.
You want to have sex? Yes.
Looks like you've been circumcised.
Bingo.
This was, like, so awkward. Can you imagine if you were just the janitor there and you're just, like, or whatever, you're going and you're walking into rooms and you're getting the freaking bins filled with needles that were used to stick people's asses, and you just stop and stare at this very awkward scene.
Oh, Dr. Slut's doing it again.
Dr. Slut.
I'm like, oh, that bitch? Dude, she's supposed to be on the 5th floor for getting treatment for meth addiction and depression.
That's not a doctor. She just grabs people's dicks.
So after this conversation, the nurse figures out that Joe is not so much a samurai cop, but more of a gherkin cop. So
credit to her.
When you say gherkin, do you mean small pickle?
All the while,
thanks for pointing it out.
All the while, Officer Washington, who looks like a skinnier, thinner Terrence Howard, is all doing the
Now,
damn.
I gotta stop you right there, Joel. You cannot say that one black guy looks like another black guy. You can't do that.
No, I can tell you
He
that,
does look like Terrence Howard.
And like,
Yeah, but man,
I could recognize.
Yeah, but you can't
Howard.
say that.
yeah, but
Why can't I?
but all the
Why
Japanese
can't we
guys
say
in this
that?
movie.
Yeah.
Why can't we say
So
the Samurai
confusing.
Cop guy looks like Steve Carell?
It's like, of course I can. I can pick out Terrence Howard in a lineup.
So
Because of his
Yeah, I'm not saying
his blue eyes.
As long as he was standing next to some guy in a turban and some little Asian woman,
Like what we say, like, oh yeah, it looks like
some Wall Street guru, and perhaps a dog, and maybe a shape of some sort. I
A
can
midget.
Pick it out.
I couldn't tell if this was Denzel Washington or Barack Obama.
It's just funny because he's just sitting there watching this awkward flirting.
I get those two
slash
confused all the time.
Sexual harassment scene, and he's just like, "Ooh, damn!" He's doing all these faces. You're like, "You
Listen,
crazy?"
All I'm saying
This
is,
was the era of Beverly Hills Cop
yeah,
and Lethal Weapon.
yeah.
And you can tell that the influences those had on this thing.
I just want to finish this conversation up. Just don't ever stick Colin Powell and James Earl Jones in a room together because I will not be able to tell them apart.
Unless you hear them speak.
Morgan
Yeah.
Freeman
Yeah.
and Nelson Mandela.
And then
Oh,
you'll be
fuck.
Darth Vader.
We're gonna have to delete this entire podcast.
No, we're not.
No, that's
There's at
actually
least
fantastic.
2 other instances that have to leave.
So Steve, the permalit guy, is supposed to be watching the burned van driver, but right after Joe and Frank leave, he starts hitting on one of the nurses. And Yamashita's redhead girlfriend brings him into the burn guy's room with the old horribly disfigured henchman in the trash bin cart trick.
Yeah, I just gotta. And not only that, but he's like, he emerges from the trash bin like a rat from the dumpster.
Yeah.
Oversized chin rat from the dumpster in a freaking doctor's coat.
Yeah, why didn't you just
Did
walk
he not?
in?
Did no one ever explain to Zedar or Yamashita or whatever his name
Well-
is, how stealth works?
Well, you weren't paying attention. He was just having a snack before they went into the room. That was the whole reason he was in the garbage bin.
This guy was folded over enough
Yeah,
to be giving himself
seriously.
fellatio in there.
Well, that was happening too.
The guy is like contorted to Cirque du Soleil proportions inside a freaking linen hamper and pops out with a doctor's lab coat on,
Yep.
katana in hand. He's like, why didn't you just walk through there with a badge? on
Where
his
was that
jacket?
sword?
Yeah.
It wouldn't even fit in the bin by itself.
Yeah.
He doesn't cross his mind. Maybe just walk around with a badge and a lab coat on. It's maybe a stethoscope and have people.
Yeah, I
think
can
he's
only
some
do that on the
jackass
way out.
Hunter.
But on the way in,
You go in with a stethoscope and a katana, you're gonna look a little fucking conspicuous. It's just the way it goes.
well, you could disguise the stethoscope as a really big anal rectal thermometer. You know?
Paul, real doctors don't have those. Just the ones you use.
And then he gets out and he slowly cuts the guy, like carves the guy's head off. Like he
Okay.
saws it off.
He's like, I've never done this before. Let me.
Yeah,
see.
it's like he doesn't want to screw up first time carving the
Am I using
Thanksgiving
the right
turkey.
edge?
I'll be serving at Thanksgiving this year. This is good practice for me.
It's like, redhead, Google this for me. I don't know what I'm doing. What side of sword do I cut with?
I are confused. Mongo kill bleeding hand.
So Steve, having clearly failed to pick up on the nurse, I'm sure they edited out the rape whistle, goes back into the burn guy's room and finds it covered in blood, and Yamashita and his girlfriend have escaped.
You know what's funny too? When she's walking out of the room, she could barely move this freaking hamper with this cyclops inside of it.
It's funny watching her struggle.
Beard claws. Oh my god!
And so Yamashita and his girlfriend are in the parking lot trying to get away, and these security guys keep asking him for his ID. They're like, "Doctor, can I see your ID?" And he responds appropriately by punching the shit out of all of them.
I'm just gonna do that everywhere I go. Pay
And
with
you know
my,
he
pay
was
with my
thinking-
credit card. Can I see some ID? Boom.
Yep.
Punched you out. It's like, I'll just take this this diabetes medication.
And he punches them all out with like one punch, no doubt generated by the tremendous leverage he gets from his chin.
Well, I think they all just like passed out from shock just by looking at this jawline.
Yeah, and then they flee in in a convertible, no less.
Yeah.
Yes. Inconspicuous as the van was.
Yep.
There's no low profile for these guys.
So back at the police station, the captain is once again ripping into Joe and Frank, and he says if Joe is here one more week, he might wind up in jail. And Frank smooths things over with the captain, telling him they're going to get results. Then he kisses him on the head.
Well, why didn't you just say so? God, you have me stressing over nothing.
So Joe and Frank decide to go to the restaurant and confront the Katana Gang at their nicely appointed wine tasting room. And we meet Jennifer, who's the owner, and she can't keep her eyes off of Samurai Cop.
Yeah, this is pretty amazing how these cops just decide to directly confront the suspects and say, we know what you're doing. You're totally fucked. We're going to take your operation down.
And Joe tells Fujiyama he knows he's the leader of the shit Katana Gang.
No, you didn't.
Them's fighting words.
And there are several shots of Jennifer during this exchange that indicate that the mucous membranes between her legs are becoming dampish.
Wow.
Awesomely, Joel tells the attorney that he'll have their stinking bodies in garbage bags and ship them back to Japan for fertilizer, which seems like a needlessly elaborate plan, in my opinion.
How you going to do that? Huh? How you going to break it down into fertilizer?
Yeah, and did they even grow plants in Japan?
Directly following this, we meet my favorite movie character of all time, the gay Costa Rican waiter, Joselito Rescobar. And that's how...
They went that way. Oh, this guy is crazy.
That's a pretty good impression, Joel.
Yeah.
So Joe and Frank go to the parking lot to get in their car, but Yamashita follows them and sicks some of his men on them in the open. There are grenades involved.
Yes.
One of the guys gets shot by Frank, a theme that will continue to go throughout this movie. And the blood is not just ketchup-like. This is straight up Heinz all over this guy's shirt.
Does anyone just
This is
pick up on
ragu.
this scene and just think maybe the guy who directed the choreography just played a lot of Final Fight in the arcade? With Commissioner Haggard or whatever, just walking around with his arms open like he's ready to hug someone.
Yep.
And then there's just knives on the ground and grenades on the ground.
Yeah, you expect somebody to be injured and go over and find a turkey sitting on the ground and eat a turkey leg and feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
Samurai Cop is hungry.
He just punches the dumpster until it explodes and there's 3 dinner plates in there.
So Joe chops off one of the guy's arms, and Yamashita shoots an Uzi, a samurai Uzi apparently, for a full minute, killing all of his own guys so they can't talk. And not a single fucking cop shows up while all this is happening.
There were 2 right there. They didn't really need backup.
Yeah.
We got this. We got this.
Now, mind you, why they can't press charges against a guy trying to shoot them with an Uzi and maybe arrest him or take him to jail? I don't really understand why he gets off scot-free for this.
And so we learn that Joe is not merely a racist against Japanese, based on his rant at Fujiyama earlier, but he also does not care for African Americans because he tells Frank that the captain is going to burn his ass charcoal black.
Damn.
Which even for 1989 seems a bit extreme for me. Joe goes back to the restaurant and talks with Jennifer, and she has the biggest pussy in the world.
In the wall? Wow.
The biggest pussy in the world on her wall. She has this giant lion's head sculpture on the wall of her office for some reason, and it's on every shot that's in this office.
Oh, pussy! Yeah. I see what
pussy.
You did there.
Yeah.
Oh.
You guys are so clever.
Oh yeah, he's got a yarn mane too.
Yeah, it's weird. Seriously. It's fucking weird.
Something creepy your grandma made for you.
It's crochet ferocity.
Now I know why you didn't say she had the biggest cunt on her wall. I see where you were going.
I got you. So he tells Jennifer he's there on a social call, and she tells him that Fujiyama more or less owns the restaurant because he bought it from them when her dad killed himself. And she clearly has no interest in dating him, but ultimately she agrees to see him on Sunday after church on her birthday because that makes sense.
Apparently she doesn't have much of a social life outside of sleeping with strange, weird-haired guys.
Yeah, that's about as lively as she gets.
And so
on your birthday.
when he's leaving the restaurant, he's confronted by a couple more gang members, and at this point I am led to believe that he was not in fact trained by masters from Japan, but instead went with the discount training and was actually trained by Wang Wang in the Philippines because he dick punches these dudes, all of them.
Okay, and according to the sex scenes, he wasn't trained by Masters and Johnson either.
I like that, Paul. He chases one of the guys down and learns that Okamura sent them because duh. Joe and Frank decide to go to Okamura's house, and Frank wonders along the way if the captain is going to cut him on the dick because that seems logical.
Cut you on the dick.
Isn't that police procedure?
Okamura is banging a brunette who is clearly into his weird Japanese fetish thing because we keep seeing glimpses of her panties. And Joe and Frank stopped.
Wait, are they in a vending machine?
This is pretty horrible. It, like, retroactively destroys the Ninja Turtles for me.
Yeah.
I really liked that movie as a kid, but when I see the #1 man for Shredder laying around in some mankini or whatever, I don't know what to call it.
If he had put a little oil on himself or something to make himself presentable, it wouldn't have been too bad.
So Joe and Frank stop and watch this through the sliding glass door for a little while, and Joe says, "Looks like this is his last fuck."
Jesus, it's like 8-year-old kids like trying to talk like adults in this.
That's what I say every time it happens.
It's the best foreshadowing this movie
Look,
has.
you say this, it looks like his last fuck. Are you like talking to your penis?
We see during this scene that Okamura has an old Defender arcade cabinet in his house, but Joe and Frank decide to bust him anyway. And although Okamura is in just a black man panty, he goes around the corner, is now fully dressed and carrying a briefcase.
So let me ask you another question here. Why is it he can't arrest the evil chipmunk-jawed bastard who shot at them, but they can go after the guy that some guy tells them is the guy who sent them after him? Where is the fucking police logic in this movie? I'm still trying to figure it out.
They go to the restaurant and confront Fujiyama, but they say earlier that he's one of the most wanted men in Los Angeles. If he's wanted, he has arrest warrants out for him, and they're right there. They could just arrest him.
They don't even think to do it.
They're not very good cops.
They're not very good cops, Craig.
No.
And apparently they don't have very big dicks either.
Yeah.
No wonder they wanted
According
to
to
take
that
guy
doctor.
down, you know?
Seriously, as I mentioned, Make-A-Wish Foundation. Let's give these two guys that have terminal, I don't know, brain degeneration a chance to live out their cop fantasy. Don't worry, the guns aren't real. Just pretend you're dying.
Let's find a chick who has her underwear on and make them feel like they're having sex to be special.
It's the least we can do for these eunuchs.
So, Okamura and Joe decide they're going to fight hand-to-hand like men, or whatever it is Joe is. And this is one of the scenes where Joe is clearly wearing a wig. You can see it in there.
Yeah.
Because I think during most of the movie, that's actually his hair.
Well, I think it's because they had to put the stuntman in, and so he had
But
to
it
wear
looks
the
like it's
big-ass
him.
wig. Well, that's what a stuntman's supposed to do. It's not
Well,
supposed to look like someone else.
Okay,
Look, make a
okay,
stuntman,
okay.
would it?
So after Joe...
Wait, are you saying that they use the stuntman when he speaks dialogue?
That may be. Can we get a stand-in for the retard? Thanks.
Sorry, he can't make it through 1 or 2 lines before he starts drooling on himself and freaking out.
So after Joe defeats Okamura, Frank tries to cuff him, but he grabs Frank's gun and Joe shoots him.
And that is like the lamest karate fight ever. I want to put that out there. Even the guy who's supposed to be Japanese, I mean, the most karate thing he does is wave his hands in a circle. of some sort, and then he like tries to
Stands cross-legged. And...
Hey, wax on.
wax off.
So the scene switches to like inside a hotel room, and Fujiyama and Yamashita are meeting to discuss taking out the cops. And at this point, too, you can see Yamashita clearly has Pepsi in his wine glass. Which you probably have to watch the movie. It's just funny. It's just a thing I noticed.
Yeah.
And Yamashita decides to order...
Are you sure it wasn't Dr. Pepper?
It might have been. Could have been root beer. Could have been
sarsaparilla?
Hey, he may be pro cutting a burn victim's head off in the hospital, but he is totally anti-drinking.
Yes.
Maybe it was RC Cola.
It could be.
Could have been Shasta Cola. Could have been Shasta Diet Cola.
You think it was a Faygo?
No one would get Shasta.
Faygo.
So Yamashita decides to order mob guys from New York to break the cops' kneecaps.
Because his own samurai army is obviously not doing that.
Right.
Well, they do that so well from New York. That's kind of their specialty.
That's true, kneecapping.
And the next scene is actually shot in an editing studio because I'm pretty sure the director wanted to remind us that we are actually watching a movie.
The reality is
Which I had forgotten. I thought this was like an episode of like Jersey Shore for a long time. I just got lost in it.
And Joe shoots all the bad guys from New York. So apparently they weren't so
Soul
great.
Brigade coming into the building now.
Because that's what samurai cops do. They shoot people.
Yes. In the next scene...
They also speak fluent Japanese, which you can hear many, never, ever.
Yeah. No one's...
Doesn't he sing along to Mr. Roboto by Styx at one point in the movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know that even the Japanese guys don't look
That
like
gives
they
some
speak
credibility.
Japanese. I don't know.
So in the next scene, the director has clearly gone from merely senile to full-blown dementia because he gives us a Robert Zadar sex scene. Followed by Joe picking up Jennifer after church because nothing sacred is left in the universe. He takes Jennifer back to his place, which pisses Fujiyama off, even though Joe makes a casserole, which seems really nice to me.
You know, the Fujiyama
You know
sex
that.
scene is the only time I've ever actually seen Vor in practice. Because I'm pretty sure she gets devoured completely by that massive.
I know, that's what I was going to say. I bet she was like terrified that entire scene. He's going to eat me.
Oh my god.
I've seen Anaconda. I know how this ends.
Oh my
Can't
god.
climax unless he swallows my face.
I thought I was supposed to take his head into my mouth, but now it's the other way around.
Yeah, you're right about punishing the audience.
Yeah, this is pretty bad. So Joe tells Jennifer during this scene that he can read eyes, which made me jealous because I've carried with me for years the shame and embarrassment of being eye illiterate.
Hey, look me in the eye, Gabe. What am I saying?
Oh, you're so stupid. You're so stupid, Gabe.
Oh my god.
You sure you didn't mean he just could read the letter I because he watched Sesame Street that morning?
Let me try the smoldering one, see if he gets it.
I'm going to be the first person to ever get PTSD from a podcast. So Fujiyama's men start killing the cops, and they start with the sergeant and his wife. And while while this is happening, Joe and Jennifer go to the beach together in matching his and hers bikinis.
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
The combination of that guy's wife, who is not the most attractive of women,
Yeah.
and then switching over to the scene of the unattractive guy who just creeps me the fuck out with his hair. It just wasn't helpful. I felt scared and alone and sad. Hold me, Paul.
You're going to feel even more scared, alone, and sad.
I was surprised he was brave enough to go down to the beach to go swimming. I mean, isn't he afraid to get his hair wet?
I would imagine.
The strong tide might rip it right off his bald head.
So the bad guys break into Frank's place, and when they make him take off his towel as he's getting out of the shower, and we learn that he, like Tobias Funke and the hero from Boxer's Omen, showers in his underwear. Frank gets the drop on the bad guys and takes them out and tries frantically to call Joe because he knows that the bad guys are coming to his house as well. And Fujiyama and his henchmen break into Peggy's house and torture her by burning her with the pan full of hot semen she was preparing. I'm just kidding, it was eggs.
There was no supply of semen that's recently been in her house. We've already established that.
Yeah, it wasn't semen, it was female eggs.
This would explain why she's so frustrated.
At the end, the guy just jerked off a bottle of yogurt on her and called it done. That was what happened.
And so all of this causes Joe to finally bang Jennifer at this time with his clothes off.
Because the last one he was banging was being tortured by a grease fire, and that's what makes it erotic.
Yes.
Sexy.
Frank finally gets Joe on the phone, but Yamashita and his men are already at Joe's house. And Joe kills Bruce Dern, who appears in this movie uncredited. He's the tall, skanky henchman. And Joe has clearly learned some magical teleportation powers because the rest of this scene takes place at a completely different house that is also not right next to the beach. They hop into Joe's Acura and they get away. No, I'm just kidding. It's a Honda. Joe then drops Jennifer back off at the restaurant so Fujiyama can kidnap her, naturally. And the captain is so pissed that he clearly no longer has his faculties because he tells Joe and Frank to burn his place into a bloodbath.
By the end of it, they're going to be just as black as Frank's dad.
So, Joe and Frank infiltrate Fujiyama's lair once again, Wang Wang style. They just, walk right up to the front door.
Subtlety is hard.
And they mow down several fat black guys, the obvious go-to for Japanese gangs' last line of defense.
You're missing the best part of the infiltration scene.
Yes.
Where Officer Washington scoots underneath a hole that's been dug under the fence. Joe, bemuddled and confused, more than usual, as judging from the puzzle.
But are you trying to say befuddled?
Befuddled.
You said bemuddled.
Bemuddled.
Just say it.
Yeah, well, he did say he went in the dirt under a fence.
I'm bemuddled by the fact that you guys burned this place into a bloodbath.
And Joe asks him, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm an undercover cop." Oh man, it's like writing for episodes of G.I. Joe.
It really is.
Except there's no anti-drug message.
No.
No, it's a pro-drug message. You need drugs so you can be sane.
So, once Joe and Frank get into the mansion, it's clear that the person who made the dancer statue here and the lion head from earlier must somehow be related to the producer. Because they do all these close-up shots in between this dancer statue that's on top of the piano of Jennifer and Fujiyama during this scene.
Yeah.
You're digging too much.
It's helped to build.
No, there's 3 shots of it. I'm not digging for anything.
When you say Jennifer dancer statue, was there a bucket of water that they pulled the handle and it fell on it?
No.
Not the Flash dancer statue. That was in a different scene.
And so Fujiyama...
Oh, Jennifer Grey. Dirty Dancing.
Yeah. Fujiyama convinces the guys to drop their guns, and then he shoots Frank, but Frank shoots and kills him, and we see that Frank was wearing a bulletproof vest. And he makes a joke here, too.
Oh, plot device.
Joe realizes that he has to take care of Yamashita, and he goes back outside, and he takes on someone who appears to be Jackie Chan's mentally challenged third cousin, Jabby Chab. But Frank shoots him. One of the other henchmen has the exact same permullet as Brock Sampson from the Venture Brothers. There's a guy in this scene that has the blonde. Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's exactly the same haircut.
There we go. What's going on?
And
whatever.
And then, as this is all happening, Yamashita arrives, and we now have a 2-episode Suzuki Samurai streak. Because there was a Suzuki Samurai streak, Suzuki Samurai in Deadly Prey as well.
All right.
Yeah.
The things that bind us.
And then when
Where was the animal cruelty and rape in this movie? Now we gotta have a stupid Suzuki.
I know.
Well, we moved on.
We have.
We're finding linking things as we may find in other things. I guess pure blatant stupidity is probably a theme we'll be latching onto pretty soon, and just poor decisions in general.
We should start playing 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon soon.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure somehow we can link him to animal mutilation and rape.
His last name is Bacon. Kevin Macon Bacon.
Yeah, a
One
lot of,
lady who
a
has
lot of
the
people
oil
don't know his
on
middle
her
name
nose.
also is Rape.
No, it's Mick Rape.
And so when Yamashita gets out of the Suzuki Samurai, he's with art house movie director fave John Sayles, also in an uncredited role. This henchman guy does look exactly like John Sayles. And so...
Who knows what John Sayles looks like?
I guess I do.
The rest of us will just sit here and
Oh, yeah.
nodding our
That
heads.
famous writer-director.
He was so obscure. He like wrote one movie that no one ever saw and then he died.
Yeah.
You don't know that guy?
So Joe and Yamashita fight in double speed Keystone Division again with Japanese swords, which is English for katana. And I began to wonder if Yamashita really didn't know how swords worked because he keeps hitting Joe with the handle.
The pointy end hit him with
I just like the sort of the slow dragging,
Yeah.
twirling and flourishing of the sword.
Is this like the final fight scene that
Yeah.
we're talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about the final.
Okay, was
fight
it just
scene.
me, or does he look so much like Kenny G at this point?
Kenny G has like curly hair though. This
Yeah,
guy has
blonder.
long, flowy hair.
You're fucking off your rocker, Paul. That's nothing like Kenny G.
Oh!
What's wrong with you? Step back.
So much for my saxophone joke.
I like how like the main character. I can never remember the names of any of these guys.
Yeah.
But okay, so the main character comes in. He's whipping his sword around. He's all badass and everything like that. And then Chipmunk Jaw comes out, and he waves his sword like every third grader would in a play fight. Just waving one arm around in spastic motions. Like, I'm a badass motherfucker, man. Come on.
What would have made this?
Yeah, but the way he held that tinfoil shield.
Yeah.
It could have gotten better though. Like I seriously think this movie would be great if both the guys were making like sword sounds out of the side of their mouth.
Lightsaber sound.
Or lightsaber, even then, even better.
And so during the fight, Joe prevails by breaking Yamashita's neck jaw, which I found to be extremely far-fetched. And Yamashita tells Joe,
That's my acting job.
"You know the code of the Bushida." You remember this, Craig? He says it wrong, and he says, "Kill me," but then he does like a harikiri, like seppuku's himself.
Seppuku is Japanese for the English word harikari.
It all makes sense now.
And so, back on the beach, back in matching thongs again, Joe and Jennifer kiss, and the credits roll, and Samurai Cop is over.
Thank God.
Oh, and the actor who plays Joe is dead.
I guess, thank God again? No.
It happened at the premiere of this movie. He watched it after the editing.
No, he probably had...
He committed Harry Carey too.
Yeah.
Harry Carey, also known as rage quitting.
So I think that's all we got tonight. Anybody have any STDs?
Well, I do, but I don't want to share them.
Oh, yeah, I got tons of them. Oh, wait, you're talking about Schlock Talk Dudes.
Yes, I'm talking about Schlock Talk Dudes. Let me see. Everybody should watch Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Beyond the Black Rainbow is good.
Is that like a African American version of the Dorothy series?
It is like a slow burn Stanley Kubrick. If Stanley Kubrick like made a film with David Cronenberg.
Yeah, and Nicholas Rogue.
I don't know who that is. Sorry.
That's okay. We're working on it, Greg. We're working on it.
We're gonna get you up to speed, Greg.
Okay. Yeah. So you should go to our Facebook page and like us, and go to schlocktalk.com and listen to previous episodes.
Send us some feedback, for God's sake.
Yeah,
Yes.
or death threats or something.
We'll take death threats. We'll take any feedback.
Baked goods. We'll take anything.
This one podcast we put out every 3 months. We need some love on these guys.
And then follow us on Twitter at Talking Schlock as well. Good night.